In a small kingdom nestled among rolling hills and whispering forests, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Ella. Ella had lived a happy life with her parents until fate intervened cruelly, and they passed away, leaving her in the care of her stepmother and two stepsisters. But where there is love, there is hope, and Ella's resilience was as enduring as the stars in the night sky. Ella's stepmother, Lady Beatrice, was a woman of stern countenance and shallow heart, whose only desires were for wealth and social standing. Her daughters, Clarissa and Anastasia, shared her demeanor, treating Ella as nothing more than a servant in her own home. Despite their mistreatment, Ella remained gentle and kind, finding solace in the simple pleasures of life. She found comfort in the company of the forest creatures, who seemed to understand her plight, and she often found herself lost in the enchanting melodies of the birds that nested nearby. One day, news spread across the kingdom like wildfire. The prince was hosting a grand ball in search of a bride. Invitations were sent far and wide, reaching even the humble cottage where Ella resided. Lady Beatrice and her daughters were consumed with excitement at the prospect of attending, for they saw it as an opportunity to elevate their status in society. As preparations for the ball began, Ella's stepmother made it abundantly clear that she was not to attend. "You, Ella, are to remain here and tend to your chores," she declared, her voice dripping with disdain. "A servant such as yourself has no place among royalty." Ella, though disheartened, accepted her fate with grace, knowing that she could not defy her stepmother's wishes. However, as the day of the ball drew near, her heart grew heavy with longing. She yearned to see the splendor of the palace, to dance beneath the starlit sky, if only for a fleeting moment. As evening descended and the household bustled with excitement, Ella retreated to her chamber, where she gazed wistfully out the window at the moonlit sky. It was then that a soft voice spoke from the shadows, causing her to start in surprise. "Do not despair, dear Ella," the voice whispered, and Ella turned to see a radiant figure standing before her. It was her fairy godmother, whose presence filled the room with an ethereal glow. "My dear child," the fairy godmother continued, "I have come to grant you a gift, for I see the purity of your heart and the strength of your spirit." With a wave of her wand, she transformed Ella's tattered rags into a gown of shimmering silk, as blue as the depths of the ocean. Upon her feet, she placed a pair of delicate glass slippers that sparkled like diamonds in the moonlight. "But fairy godmother," Ella exclaimed, overcome with wonder, "how can I attend the ball when my stepmother has forbidden it?" The fairy godmother smiled knowingly. "Fear not, my dear. You shall attend the ball, and no one shall recognize you in your newfound splendor. But remember, the magic shall last only until the stroke of midnight. At the first chime, you must leave the palace, for once the spell is broken, all will return to as it was before." With a gentle touch, the fairy godmother bid Ella farewell, and she set off for the palace, her heart aflutter with anticipation. As she arrived, she was met with gasps of astonishment, for never had the guests seen such beauty and grace. Ella's stepsisters, Clarissa and Anastasia, looked on in envy as she danced with the prince, her laughter echoing like music in the air. For a fleeting moment, Ella felt as though she were living in a dream, surrounded by the splendor of the ballroom. But as the clock struck midnight, reality came crashing down upon her, and she remembered the fairy godmother's warning. With a sense of urgency, she fled from the palace, leaving behind a single glass slipper as the only trace of her presence. The following day, the kingdom was aflutter with gossip as news spread of the mysterious maiden who had captivated the prince's heart. Determined to find his true love, the prince declared that he would search far and wide for the owner of the glass slipper, for he knew that she alone held the key to his happiness. One by one, the maidens of the kingdom tried on the slipper, hoping to win the prince's favor. But it was to no avail, for the slipper would fit none but its rightful owner. As the prince's search seemed destined to end in disappointment, fate intervened in the most unexpected of ways. Ella's stepmother, Lady Beatrice, recognized the opportunity for her own gain and insisted that Clarissa and Anastasia try on the slipper. Despite their protests, the prince humored them, knowing full well that neither could be the mysterious maiden who had stolen his heart. As Clarissa and Anastasia struggled to cram their feet into the delicate slipper, Ella watched from the shadows, her heart heavy with sorrow. She knew that she could never reveal herself, for her stepmother would never allow her to marry a prince. But just as all hope seemed lost, the prince caught sight of Ella standing among the crowd. With a sense of recognition dawning in his eyes, he approached her, his heart pounding with anticipation. "May I try on the slipper, Your Highness?" Ella asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The prince nodded eagerly, his heart filled with a sense of longing. As Ella slipped her foot into the glass slipper, it fit her perfectly, as though it had been crafted for her and her alone. With tears of joy streaming down his cheeks, the prince took Ella's hand in his own, knowing in that moment that he had found his true love. Turning to her stepmother and stepsisters, he declared that he would marry Ella, the kind-hearted maiden who had captured his heart. And so, amidst the whispers of the courtiers and the jubilant cheers of the kingdom, Ella and the prince were wed in a ceremony more beautiful than any fairy tale. As they danced beneath the starlit sky, surrounded by the ones they loved, they knew that their happiness was as enduring as the love that had brought them together. And though Ella's journey had been fraught with hardship and sorrow, she knew that it had led her to a destiny far greater than she could have ever imagined. For in the end, it was her kindness, her resilience, and her unwavering belief in the power of love that had led her to her happily ever after.